Before we dive into this episode, I just want to let you know if you want to get access to episodes before anybody else, head on over to patreon.com/concerts that made us. And as a bonus, you'll get access to videos of some of the episodes and a host of other benefits. We've also teamed up with Band Builder Academy to offer you 10% off their membership. Details of both can be found in the show notes below.
Hey everyone, this is Justin and Nico from Fayne, and you're listening to Concerts That Made Us.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, Concerts That Made Us. Interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down. The greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts that made us. Concertsthatmadeus.com.
On this episode, I'm joined by Justin and Nico from Canadian metal band Fayne. This is a long one, so you're going to hear just about everything there is to hear about the band. I really enjoyed doing this episode and I know you're going to love it too. So, without further ado, let's get on with the show. Justin and Nico, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Thank you
Thanks
for
for having
having
us.
us.
It's great to have you. This one was requested by a listener, so I'm excited to hear all about your music. We opened the show with Empath, which you released in 2021. It was created in tandem with Hubris as a standalone project. Can you tell us about it?
So the concept of the two songs, originally when we had started demoing these songs, I had written a first draft of lyrics that didn't really tie in with ultimately what the concept of the music became. And then throughout the pandemic, when we were locked out of our studio, when we were sent to our homes, we were doing the full production of the songs. And I had finished the lyrics then and recorded the vocals then. And those two songs started to tie together lyrically with video concepts that we had started thinking about that we were going to bring to our video, like our music video team, once we wanted to do the videos for these songs. And they're basically kind of a yin and yang relationship exists between these two songs, with Empath kind of displaying and also talking about kind of the good sides of humanity and human nature, and what it means to have compassion and empathy and sympathy and love for people, whereas Hubris kind of dives into the behaviors and feelings that we show other people when we give into temptation and hatred and division and fear, and these are like things that bands have talked about like for ages now. But I would definitely enjoy putting our own unique spin on it with the video concept that followed the release of the music. That basically sums up like what the songs talk about broadly. And the videos actually allow the two songs to be open to interpretation. So we've heard a lot of really cool theories about what the songs are talking about and what they're trying to represent as a message. But ultimately, it comes back to each song representing one side of the duality of being a human being and choosing between right and wrong and good or bad or what have you.
Yeah. And from the start, did you set out knowing they would be a standalone, or did you kind of realize halfway through, right, this needs to be a standalone kind of project?
It definitely showed all the symptoms and signs of being a standalone project early on. However, I don't think we noticed them at that point in time. When we had finished our full length that came out in 2018, we started working on these songs, and the instrumental demo for Empath was the first one that was made following that full length album. And then we kind of just started to see where we would go with writing the songs as the inspiration comes, and then doing our due diligence to refine the parts and make sure that we can bring out the potential in the ideas that we have. And then the realization that we kind of had two songs that represented a very unique period of time for us as a band as well, conveniently lined up with the fact that the pandemic hit and we weren't allowed to continue making and working on music together anymore. So we had to sit through, those 3, 4, 5 months of, isolation and difficulty, accessing the businesses needed to, further record music and further work on music. And as time went on and we were able to, work with our film team during the restrictions to actually put a visual to the music. But it had been such a period of time since we had written those songs and to where we were at that point. And as we were discussing the videos and how we were going to make the two songs tied together visually, I think that's when we sat down and like kind of just acknowledged that maybe this is just like a unit in itself. And it's kind of just like a timestamp of this chapter of our band. And we should release it as that. So that's what we did.
And it's available on vinyl through your Bandcamp. Was that something you were consciously kind of working towards? You wanted to put out something on vinyl?
We've always
That's
played
been
with
a
the
little dream
idea.
of mine.
Yeah. So Nico definitely pushes the vinyl aspect. the idea of it was definitely pushed a lot by Nico at the beginning, because he's a collector, and you could talk about your collection and stuff like that, but he really, like, is very savvy in the world of vinyl, and the clientele and the community of people that exist in that community. So we were like, hell yeah, let's go for it and print something. And Nico, if you want to elaborate on how that worked out.
I just it was like I've always wanted like a record with our band name on it, like, and I think with the like resurgence of vinyl and all that in the last couple of years, I was like, man, like now's the time to do it, especially with the pandemic and the lack of shows, and everyone seemed to be finding another way to support bands. So rather than be like, because we couldn't play shows, we figured, you know what, let's release these songs, let's get some physical media to people, and like work more online than live, because we couldn't, so we kind of switched gears and thought it was a good opportunity to try it out, and I'm happy with the way it worked out. Like they look sick, and it's like it's a nice piece of art, like I really like the vinyl thing.
Yeah. And what was the reaction like from fans then, especially in particular the vinyl?
I mean, we got a lot of reaction. Yeah.
No negative ones.
No. With the vinyl, with the videos, honestly, overall, it was a pretty good reaction. Like Justin said before, we had some interesting theories that on what the videos meant. We got like good feedback on the vinyl, the way they looked or whatever sounded. So I mean, we can't complain.
No, it was a really positive response. Even to like the limited audience that we have as a independent metal band from Canada, there was still like really good reception and some new names and faces leaving comments and asking for one that I had never seen before, and that was exciting, and everyone really appreciated like the work that went into the design and the pattern chosen for each variant, because we have two different variants that had come out, and both of them are we pretty much got like a very close to even demand for both of them. I think the bone splatter one, there was definitely a little bit more popular, but we have this like green and yellow, like almost like fluorescent color, like smashed one as well, that like people adamantly chose over the bone splatter one as well. So I mean, I think we had something for everybody, and that was really cool. It's definitely something that we'll love to continue to do as time goes on.
Brilliant. And when it comes time for you guys to make new music, then what does that process look like? Do you kind of lock yourselves away to write the lyrics, come up with the music?
No, I don't think we have the luxury of doing that, to be honest with you. I mean, we all have full-time jobs, and two of us have families with children. We're all getting old, and we have to abide by certain other obligations that we have as well. But we do make the time to at least 2 days a week to meet up and discuss things and see what our next plan of action is. The process so far has been kind of choosing a day on the weekend to go and produce, to go and work on like a song idea that's already been presented to us. So our lead guitarist Alex will come up with just a demo that could even just be like a mishmash of riffs, and he'll put like some program drums over it, and he'll send it to us on our group chat, and we'll listen to it. And I think once we have like about a handful of them, like 7, 8, or 9, we start working on like the production on the ones that we know are going to be obvious choices for actual songs. We used to, in the past, we would record drums like at a studio, but I think this time we're going to be doing them at our homes, namely our drummer's home, since we used to have a jam space, and now we practice in our drummer's basement now that he's bought a house. So we're probably going to create a good situation acoustically in the basement to start not only pre-producing, but maybe even doing the actual production of some of the tracks that are coming up. while the drums are being done or being worked on with that demo, we start to do vocals as well. So we'll take a day like Sunday or something where we'll pull up the demo and then we'll start recording the first pass of vocals over it, screaming and Queen singing. And then we'll kind of sit on it for a week, and you kind of, which, I feel like you kind of have to do, lay your first idea down. If you can get a full song done and get a full song done, then that's incredible. But whatever idea you do have at the moment, however long your first pass of the song is, lay it down and then give it at least 3 days before you start to it starts to intoxicate your brain and you hear it over and over again. And once you hear it over and over again, it's really easy to point out the things that you don't like or that you think could be better, because you start to get different ideas or things you could have done differently. And then after that 3 to 5 day wait, revisit it and make your adjustments. And if it works, cool. If it doesn't, back to the drawing board and you rinse and repeat until you get there.
The band was originally formed in 2004. The current lineup has been together since 2017. I'd love to hear how the band originally formed and then what led to the reshuffle.
Well, the band, I guess, it started as with me and Alex have been friends like since we were young children. So even before we even played music, and I guess we started playing guitar, both of us. Then obviously you start playing guitar, you want to join a band, so we started making covers, and then we started writing originals. Once we started writing originals, we got some friends in the band, started playing shows, and then long story short, a couple of years later, our lives took us elsewhere, and we stopped it for a little bit. And finally, there was a band that started. Me and Justin actually both weren't there when it restarted. It came to fruition with our old singer playing with Carlo, our current drummer, and he invited Alex to play, and then slowly but surely we just came back, asked me to play, and then Justin joined the band. So and here we are. So it's more of a family thing. Like we're all very good friends too. So I don't know. I guess it's something we've always been linked to together and enjoy doing together, and it just keeps bringing us back. I don't know.
Yeah. Kind of sounds like something that even if you tried, you probably wouldn't be able to give up.
It's tough. It's something that's like almost ingrained in you at this point. Me and Alex have been playing music together since I was like 13 years old. So and we both have families now, and we still do it. So it's tough to imagine the day where you're just not doing it anymore. Like even if it's not playing shows, we're not playing 300 shows a year, but we still love to do it. So
something I'd love to hear is, how does a band at your level, an independent band, go about getting their music out there and heard by new listeners?
It's a process, and it's an ever-changing process, because I've been doing this since I was 15 years old, and 16 years later, I've had to, reinvent the wheel for how I release music over the course of my time doing this, a dozen times over. The platforms keep changing, the people and the contacts that you establish over the years keep changing, because people's lives keep changing, and it's a never end. You never stop relearning how to do it, because in 10 years from now, the method that we have now is going to be completely different. So at the moment, and we use resources that are accessible by anybody. You have distribution labels, like in terms of just getting your music on the internet. Like if we have to start there before you even promote it to anybody, you can't promote it to anybody if it's not out in public to be listened to, right? So, it could be just as simple as uploading something onto YouTube. If you don't want to pay distribution or pay to a company like TuneCore or DistroKid, and these are companies that will get your music on Spotify and other streaming platforms like including YouTube Music, Amazon, Google Play, Tidal, Deezer, all those guys. Um, Namely, Spotify and Apple Music in North America are kind of the two biggest platforms that are used. Spotify by a lot. So we tend to focus on Spotify a lot more. So basically, we have like an account with a distributor, and we upload our music with all the information that you need to this, I guess, this cloud drive that this distributor has of our account. And when the scheduled day comes, the song goes up on Spotify and Apple Music and all those platforms. And once it's actually up there, in terms of getting it to the public, there's a bunch of different things. Like social media is an extremely strong tool. Whether you're doing paid campaigns or whether you are scheduling posts, strategically or in tandem with each other, that's been one of the most popular ways to gain a new audience these days. Playing shows, is the old reliable too. And you tend to find some really good fans at live shows because connection through live music is, discovering an artist on Spotify versus seeing that artist in person and getting blown away by the performance. Like, I don't really consider them to be comparable. One has a way more significant kind of experience or has much more of a significant impact on me than, getting the luck of the draw of discovering something on the internet. Like, it's cool and it's really convenient, but it doesn't share like a really powerful like method of connection with a listener. So I love to play shows. That's, a little difficult to do in Canada without crossing the border, unfortunately. So we do have to rely on social media a lot. So, I mean, we do social media campaigns and we schedule posts and we just talk about, we talk about the releases. And then when we release the videos, we schedule posts and content that talks about the videos and stuff too. And you reshare things, week after week, because not everybody sees everything that comes up on your feed. And it's a bunch of different things. And like I said, it's like anybody can do it, um, it just takes, knowing your audience as well too, and actually talking, engaging in conversations online with the people that are, actually responding to your posts as fans is also a good way to retain those people, and keep them as fans, like the closest thing you could do to establishing a personal connection with that person aside from performing for them in public in person. So, which, that takes a little bit more time and work and dedication. And you really have to apply yourself to engaging with people one-on-one online. But it does have a really good ROI, let's say. It pays off. It's just demanding.
Yeah, yeah. And 20 years ago, it was completely different when it came to getting your music out there. Do you think it's better these days? Because I know like everybody has a phone, everyone's looking at the internet these days, but it's almost like for creators, it's almost stacked against them. If you have like 2,000 followers, you put up a post, 20 of those followers might see it,
It's a
and then
catch-22, right?
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But like 20 years ago, you were handing out flyers, handing out mixtapes, and playing gigs, and that's how people found your music. What do you think of the comparison from then to today?
Definitely a different scene altogether. I feel like there was like 20 years ago, there was shows every day. Like every day in Montreal, you could go see a show. Whereas now it's like they're fewer and far between. There's not as many venues. There's not as many tours happening. I feel like, yeah, it is different. But like you said, it is a catch-22 because you have these followers online, but not everyone sees it. Whereas before, you could play a show like any night of the week, people would turn out and
Well, so
and
here's
see
the
you
thing.
live.
Here's the thing about that. Here's the thing about that, right? Because, like, the internet being a tool that allows you to access everybody and not just, not just the people like in your circle or in your surroundings or in your neighborhood, in your community. Like 20 years ago, things were really different because like the distance that you could reach in terms of getting people to know about shows or whatnot was a lot smaller, or you would have to spend a lot more money and resources to actually advertise yourself or to get yourself in the eyes of people who were outside of your community. Now we have the internet, and you can tell someone on the other side of the world who you are and what you're up to and what your plans are. But the catch 22 part is that everyone can do that.
Mm.
We can all do that now. So even though like the resources were a lot limited 20 years ago, there was a lot less competition. And not to use it in like, a vindictive sense or anything like that, but just whether or not feel like you're competing with another band, everyone is fighting for someone's attention when it comes to, being visible online at least. So it's become just really tough in that respect, like having access to all these amazing tools, but the attention span of the listener of a music consumer didn't scale with that. So everyone is now trying to fit in the attention span of that it's no bigger than it was 20 years ago. So just like the volume of music really just as a message to me says like you really have to stand out, in whatever way you think that is, like whether it's like musically, like having like mind-blowing music and throwing a mind-blowing performance, or whether it's like visually as an artist you're just mesmerizing to see, whether it's on video or whether it's live. Like you have to stand out in one way or another.
Yeah, true.
That's the climate now,
Yeah.
I can't tell you which one I prefer. It was a lot easier to do it 20, like, when we were much younger too, because we're a lot bolder and we do a lot more stupider things and we don't think as many things through. So we just try things out. And sometimes things work in our favor just by luck of the draw. And we don't know why. Whereas like as we get older, we become more cautious and we take less risk. And we don't fall upon those lucky, those lucky returns, I guess you can say.
Yeah, true. I suppose when you get a bit older, there's more consequences to being a bit more bold,
Yeah, there can be, and that's what holds people back, right?
Yeah, true. And now, before we dive into your own personal music histories, I'd love to hear a bit about your influences. You're pretty unique, you don't just look to other bands. You're influenced by computer games, film composers, and visual artists. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, I'm a big nerd.
Right.
I'm a big video game and like comic book and manga nerd and stuff like that. I love that kind of stuff. I've been playing like Final Fantasy video games since I was a kid. And the scores for those video games have always been incredible to me. So I hold them very dear, and I definitely get a lot of ideas, especially for about like what I'm writing a song about. Like there's a couple of songs coming up where lyrically I've written about like ideals that were presented to me in video games, and I won't say what they are yet, but like it was very inspiring to write about something that has that as a reference. Despite like watching this stuff and playing video games my whole life, I never really used it as a direct reference for inspiration to like my lyrics or music. So I've very directly done that this time. So, and it's yielded pretty exciting results. And Alex is from the same camp as I in that respect, my lead guitar player. He really likes, Square Enix, the video game developer Square Enix, like, their soundtracks and their musical composers as well. So we take inspiration from that, as well as like trying to remember the name of the visual artist that Alex likes. It's People. There we go. Definitely like for the video side, we get a lot of like references for like the color and the tones that are used in the video from like our favorite movies or our favorite visual artists and designers, graphic designers, I guess. And musically, it tends to just change with the times. Like there's a couple of concrete influences that, that we always like stick to, or that you like the contortionist and the misery signals like being two of those. But like we'll take like little ideas and inspiration from kind of whatever medium of art we're consuming during that given period of time. So it's always subject to change. It really depends like what we're into. Like Carlo could be into like a given TV series on Netflix and like bring ideas to the table about like a piece of music that he heard from this TV series, and like we'll toy with stuff like that instead of just like constantly referencing like, okay, well, this band that does this part in this song, like we make like a part like that goes like like trying to
Yeah.
stray away from that and use like elements that come from other forms of art. Kind of keeps things fresh. It's cool.
Yeah, definitely. And Nico, what's your take on the influences?
I mean, I think Justin's on point there. We go all over the place. Like I listen to so much stuff, like a lot of stuff that doesn't sound like us at all. But like, you see how you hear how it could be appealing to anyone, and you try to, like, I don't know, like we don't try to like listen to a track like Justin says and be like, how do we sound like this band? Like
How do we create?
I don't think we've ever said like, how do we sound like that band? Like, I don't know. We it's hard to say where we pull our musical influences from, because they're all over the place. Like I mean, I grew up listening to like 70s rock with my parents, and like 80s like 80s music, like Tears for Fears and Depeche Mode like crazy in my house. My mom loved that stuff, and I'll still throw it on now and then, and like I'm not always listening to metal. Which I do a lot, but I mean, I'll throw on like a hip hop album every once in a while and just like change it up and see, it's what you're feeling the day, and like we stick to metal for the most part in our music, but like we also have like our soundscapey stuff and like interludes where more ambient stuff that to just kind of like, we've never really thrown hip hop in there, but like, I mean,
Actually, you're wrong. I actually have a very extreme example. I think it's in
Hubris.
I think it's in Hubris
where you're super fast.
Alex wrote a part, or like he created a synthesizer layer for one part of the song that was inspired from a Kendrick Lamar song. So he had been on like a Kendrick Lamar kick. So one of the synth pieces kind of has this like very similar like wishy-washy back and forth like synth pad sound that's in a Kendrick Lamar song, and I forget which one. Alex knows which one. But like just as a unconventional example of like where a source of inspiration can come from for us, like, I mean, there you go. It's and like it could be something on the complete other end of the spectrum, like tomorrow. It's
keeps it fresh though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and unexpected, which is fun.
Yeah, exactly. Right, we'll dive into your own personal music history. If you can you remember your earliest musical memory?
Earliest musical memory. Oh man. I used to make acoustic guitars out of Kleenex boxes and elastics. And stick a cardboard tube of a paper towel roll like through the side of one of them. And I remember because there were photos and family tapes like from when I was 2-3 years old, just running around the house like strumming this thing. And then discovering my grandfather's guitar in my grandma's basement that he had originally bought for my mom, but my mom didn't want to play it. And kind of just noodling with that whenever I'd go visit my grandma, to eventually getting my own guitar in high school and getting into metal music and hearing screaming for the first time and being like, oh, what the heck is that? But my first concert was Carlos Santana, actually.
Oh, really?
My dad had taken me to see Carlos Santana. Yeah, because I was in my first year of like playing electric guitar, and I was learning Santana songs because my dad would let me turn the amp up extremely high because he loved those songs. Whenever I was playing stuff that he didn't like, he would have me turn it down very, very low. But whenever it was something that he was like, whether it be like Zeppelin or Santana or AC/DC, he'd go, turn it up. And like, all right, Dad, turn it up. So that was like my grassroots experience getting into music, and eventually, actually, I chose the high school that I went to because I went to an open house of their music class demonstration, and no other high school in the area at the time had it, and I saw this just like music class demo of a guitar, bass, and drums playing the James Bond theme.
Oh man.
At the time, I was like 11 to 12 years old, and I was like, "Spies, yeah, very cool." And saw this demonstration, and right away, I think I told my parents, I was like, "I want to go here."
Yeah, don't
And
blame me.
6 months later, I had my first electric guitar, and the rest is history. Wanted to join a band almost immediately, so I had done that not too long after playing guitar, and I just kept joining bands until I found this one.
I see. And Nico, what was your first musical memory?
For me, I mean, like, I have a lot of, like, I remember being online, like, back in the day. Like, my dad always had a computer, and I remember, like, when the first, like, sites where you could, like, it was like a radio station online, and I would find, like, 90s alt rock type things, and, like I remember with Alex, actually, we were kids. Like I must have been under 10 for sure, like 8, 7, 8 years old or something like that. And with our brother, we both have brothers, and I remember like air drumming and like we were an air band, no instruments, and we would play music in the room, and all of us would have our own instrument, and we would like pretend to be a band, like we were super young. And man, after that, like my first concert was 311 when I was like 12 years old, and after that, I just never stopped going to concerts. Like from when I was 14 and on, I was like at a concert almost every week till I was 20, just nonstop, always going to concerts. It was, I mean, it played a huge role in my life growing up. And like Justin, like I was like 12, got a guitar, and I just never really stopped. I don't know.
Yeah. And before we get to your concert experiences, what was your local music scene like when you were growing up?
Oh, it sucks to say it now, but I think we refer to them as the good old days for a very valid reason. When
It was
earlier,
wild. Like,
it was wild. Yeah, it was
yeah,
actually.
it was wild. It was great. Like we had a great scene in Montreal. Well, I mean, there's still a great scene in Montreal, but I mean, growing up in that time in that scene, like you would see the same faces over and over again, like at concerts all the time. It was a very small like capacity venues with like bands that play like arenas, not arenas, but like huge club shows now,
Hmm.
where you're seeing them in like a 200 capacity venue, and like man, it's just some crazy shows. Like and I felt like it was a great scene. Like that's why I guess I just kept going back.
It was very cool. Like it was, of course, it was smaller than, so everything was a lot more close knit. Everybody knew everybody. The biggest promoter in our city now, who does all the big metal shows, like he was just starting back then. So, everyone was like really young and really driven and in the early stages of the professionals that they have become today, especially like, the promoters and the booking agents and stuff like that. The guys who were around back then who have stuck through it and, continue to do it today, you know, they now have, any connection they need in their back pockets to make really cool concerts happen. So we have, the capacity to have like, pretty much bring in any act that we want to because of all that groundwork that was done by a really young and motivated scene, 15, 20 years ago. If it weren't for the work that was done then, we wouldn't have what we have now. Mind you, the faces are a lot less like frequent. There's always like a new group of people at every show that I go to, whether it's like I go to one like 6 months from now or I go to one next week. There's just like, it's like what we were talking about before, like the volume is just like increased so much, like not only in like the bands that are available and that you could like, that you can discover, but because like all these bands are accessible to so many people, there's just so many more people going to shows. Like it's crazy. So there's a lot less of like seeing the same familiar faces over and over again, because it's just like a sea of people that you've never seen come to these things before, going to these concerts now. And which is, that's healthy for the bands and it's healthy for everybody, but it's also like it removes the that exclusive community kind of feeling that I felt we had when we were teenagers. Like we kind of felt like it was our little world within the world. It was cool.
Yeah, I was going to say, actually, that's something I've noticed as well. It's like when you go to a gig nowadays, there's such a wide range of people in the audience. Whereas I feel like when I was younger, it was just like the metalheads or, the grunge kids or proper rock people, in the scene.
Yeah.
But now it's like the last show I went to, there was actually more of a percentage of people that would look more at home in the pop scene than at a rock show, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Just like simpler looking folks,
Yeah.
Our communities back then were known for, our appearances making some sort of a statement or what have you, a statement of counterculture or a statement of, independence or whatever, and, as fashion has evolved with music, like a lot of these things have cross-contaminated. And, I know regular guys who listen to heavier music than I do, who look much like they don't, and vice versa, like you got guys now who look like traditional metalheads and they only listen to trap music. You know what I mean? Like it's just like everything is everywhere and everyone is being influenced by everything now. And it's cool to see, but it's also like, it's just a lot of information coming at you at once all of the time. And definitely hard to process, but what choice do we have?
That's it. And your concerts you've attended, what ones do you think have made you?
Oh boy.
man.
I mean, I'm a big Slipknot fan. So the first time I had seen them, I was very, very, it was definitely a very important moment for me. First time seeing Lamb of God too, another big favorite. My first heavy music concert was Linkin Park, if we want to put them in the heavy category, back when like Meteora had come out. So that was definitely like my introduction into like, seeing such a big group of people appreciate, this genre of music that I used when I just wanted something that was for me. You know what I mean? It was like my thing that I didn't share with anyone, because growing up, there weren't a lot of people that, I had that taste in common with. So finally seeing, what my taste was in this giant arena with 60,000 people in it, and then, getting the motivation to kind of start to pursue it after that. That was definitely one that kind of shifted the gears. It's kind of hard to fall on which one you think makes you, like, after so many of them. It's a good question. You kind of got me stumped. Because, as a kid, like your first experience of anything is going to leave an impression on you.
Yeah, true.
It as it's supposed to. Definitely like my first heavy concert, my first big outdoor music festival, like first Warped Tour when we had them here in Canada. Actually, they would only come to two cities in Canada. They come to Toronto and Montreal, and sometimes they would skip us altogether. Um, but I remember seeing my first one, and I think it was 2006, and seeing all these emo bands that as an eighth grader, as a 14-year-old, like you're hearing it for the first time, and like you're just like super excited because it's also like what's making you all these new friends, and
Mm.
then you go to this concert that has like 60 of those bands playing, and you're going with all these people that are your friends now, and it's kind of just watching the community of the genre of music like be created around you for the first time, and then understanding that this world exists, or that part of the world exists. So definitely like those first experiences were super super important, and you know every time you go see Meshuggah too, it's gonna be amazing as well. That's a very unique experience.
I kind of feel like as well, especially those first festival days, as you mentioned, you're making new friends, but it's also like you're kind of, and something you touched on as well, like most people that listen to heavier music, I feel like start off in the room, maybe they're going through something and the music speaks to them. And then, as you said, you go to a concert, you realize you're not the only person in the world that this happens, that there's more people. Then you find your community. And I feel like those early festivals, early concerts kind of make lasting memories that really impact your life going forward, to kind of mold you into the person, or at least help mold you into the person you're going to be.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
You said it in a much smoother way than I was trying to. I'm just like, shit, what am I trying to say? But yeah, no, but that's just it though. It's that like, that those experiences set the bar for, you know,
Oh,
my
for sure. Like I
my
remember my first
receiving
heavy
of those.
show. Yeah, I remember my first heavy show. I remember my first festival. I remember like all of those things. And I've been to like a dumb amount of concerts, but those still stick out like even to this day. And like I find even like the more smaller intimate shows always have like a bigger impact on me. Like of bands that like would eventually become whatever legends. But like when you get to see like a band that you would consider big nowadays and like with 50 people around you and you're just like, man, this is sick. Like, cool. And I don't know, that just like always left a mark on me for sure. Like,
Well, I saw Bring Me the Horizon at Linko with like 60 other people there. It
Oh,
was their
yeah,
man.
it's
first time in
crazy.
Canada. Yeah, their
Yeah.
first time in Canada. It was like 60 people.
Like, I remember this show where it was Every Time I Die, As I Lay Dying, and Black Dahlia Murder. And there was like 100 people there. And it's like these fucking legendary bands. And like, there's like, well, they were all just starting out, too. And it was just wild time. Like that was just a sick show. Like, and so many other ones. Like, man, seeing my first heavy concert was like Norma Jean and Beloved in that same venue, and it was just like I was just blown away. I was like, what is even happening here? Like, this is it was on another level, and it marked me, and I just kept going back, and I just loved it. Yeah, it does. It definitely marks you.
Yeah, definitely. One I just thought of off the cuff is there a concert experience you have that would kind of be your favorite memory that had nothing to do with the band or the music you'd went to see?
Oh man, honestly,
It's like which experience can I talk about that I could say on a podcast? It's like some of this is not good. This is not good for the internet. Oh, there's some crazy ones. Nico, you seem closer to your answer than I am.
I think one that comes to my mind, anyways, is the last Dillinger shows, where like I was going because I was like, man, I can't miss a last opportunity to go see Dillinger. So I went to New York to go see them, and it was just the like the community of people like was even more surprising. Like how many people came from so many different places to see these shows. Like people came from Europe, people came from all over the States, all over Canada. Like people I had only spoken to online and like, you know, never met in real life, I met a bunch of people where it was just like, man, this is awesome. Like everyone actually came out and saw this, which, you know, I didn't go for the community thing, but it was like a secondhand result of it, you know,
Yeah, yeah.
which was awesome.
I definitely had very fun experiences like traveling for concerts.
Oh,
Yeah.
Just to go, traveling to go see one. Like I went to New York City to see like a hip hop concert in Central Park a few years ago. I think in 2018, and just like the experience that existed around that event. Um, everything that came to pass and happened to me as like a side effect of going to see that concert, just kind of added to the whole experience, which revolved around going to that show. Um, just like last year, we drove down to Connecticut. My girlfriend and I drove down to Connecticut to go see Knock Loose and Kublai Khan and Movements, and it was just like the whole experience of you know going to see a concert in another city is kind of interesting too, because you get to see how their scene and their crowd behaves and kind of compare them to your own.
yeah, true, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind
So
of expands your world.
Now that you mentioned traveling, like I remember being young and like my dad was really cool with that. He brought me to like Toronto at least twice. Once with Alex to see, actually both times with Alex to see like the first time we saw Weezer, and then we saw like My Chemical Romance and The Used and Finch. It was like tours that weren't coming to Montreal, and like that experience again, like you know, just having you know, somebody bring you going with your friends, like one of your best friends when you're young, it's like you're impressionable, and it definitely leaves a mark on you too. Like traveling, I love traveling for shows, and that's maybe part of the reason why I like also traveling to play shows. And you know, like the road trip, like that, and like the you know the things that happen on like the road trip itself. You know what I mean? Like the show is fun, but like the times with the guys in the van is also awesome too. Like you know, you try to make the best of it. It kind of does suck sometimes when you're like in the middle of a storm or whatever, or a long night, overnight drive. But you know, you try to make the best of it. That you guys we laugh, we make jokes in the van, and just you know, it's like it's one of the, for me anyways, like an enjoyable part of the concert experience too is like getting there, the traveling thing.
I totally get that, because I'm always saying, like, even going on vacation, for me, the vacation starts the minute you get in the car to go to the airport.
Exactly.
And
Yep.
just the trip up there is so enjoyable as well. Just the anticipation of what the vacation is going to be like. And it's the same for concerts,
Yep.
you know? And we'll move on to your own gigs that you've played. What gigs as a band do you think have made you?
Definitely, our album release in 2018 was a kind of like a milestone for our current lineup. I was in the band for only about a year at that point as the new singer, and they had been sitting on these songs for a couple of years now. And once I finished putting the words to the music and put the album together and do the music videos and set the release dates and all that, once all that was done, we were waiting to do the release show, which I think we worked harder on. We all worked harder on than we had anything before. Just making sure that people knew about it, making sure that you knew where to get tickets, and you knew who was playing, and that that we kept just like raising the hype for the show and trying to get people excited, and and we did just that. I think we sold out the room at one point. We had to close the doors. So, and we have some really memorable photos from that night. So that was, and that was also, like our community, our city, and our family and friends, like coming to support too, and helping us, have a successful show like that. We've also had some really good experiences, like outside of, away from home too. There might be some from before I was in the band that I don't know about, but for me, that album launch show that we did was really, really cool. And we had some really fun shows before the pandemic had hit, where we did a couple of runs during the summer throughout Ontario and Quebec. doing some tours with some bands that are from out there, and just like created super fun memories and experiences, like with new friends and whatnot. And those are really fun when you get to like tour with a bunch of friends, even if it's for like a weekend or 3 or 4 days or whatever. And just it's just 4 days of chaos. Actually, very 4 days of very fun chaos.
Sounds fun. Sounds fun. And Nico, what about you? What concerts have made you?
I mean, I agree with Justin that I think our record launch show was one of our better ones, like the one that we've thrown and like we put together and made happen. But also like playing with some of like some people, like some bands that like you look up to, like growing up or whatever, like has also been like awesome for me. Like just recently this year we played with Misery Signals, and for me like playing with Misery, like that's a huge band for me, and like I'm almost giddy at the fact that I get to watch them. I just want to watch them, like it's for like shows like that like are awesome in my opinion. Like we also play with the Contortionists. We've played with some cool bands in over the years, so we're definitely grateful for that opportunity to do things like that. But yeah, like just recently, I would say definitely Misery Signals was like one of my top favorite experiences. Like just getting to watch them and also play that show. So and is like blew me away. I've never seen them live before. I've seen Misery Signals several times. It's one of the bands that I had traveled to Toronto to see as well, even though I've seen them plenty of times in Montreal. But and was awesome. Misery Signals was awesome. We met a really cool band from Canada playing that show as well. So yeah, I don't know. That's one of them for me. The record launch show, and there's been so many honestly over the years. Like in the first pass of a Fayne 20 years ago, we had played with like I was still in high school. We played with Alexis on Fire in like this small little venue, and they play like huge venues now. It doesn't even make sense. Like so, yeah, that we had played with Under Oath, Hope's Fall. I mean, a bunch of cool bands. So like opening gigs it's a cool experience too when you get to like see bands that you look up to and how they work and yeah.
And what do you learn from playing with bands at that level?
You learn to be on time.
Always helps.
You learn to be on time. No, I mean, like you get insight on, like what level of equipment, the acts that, are touring at the level that everyone wants to be at. You get more familiar with like the standard of, professionalism, for people that are on the touring crew and for people that are, the agents that are running the show and the promoters that are running the shows. You kind of get to see how a professional show works and how it's supposed to be timed out. And, obviously the more you do it, the more it kind of just becomes ingrained and part of like, a habit, like at this point, it's like down to a science for us, but it's, and it's also nice because it kind of validates the progress that you've made as a band,
Yeah, true.
Every band can say like, like the first show offer that they ever got with like, a big touring act and you're opening the bill. That's like, you always have many adjustments to make after that first experience, like it humbles you, unless you have like, the insight and the education from someone who has done this before. Every band's first rodeo opening on a big bill, you tend to learn a couple of things very quickly too, because you don't want to make things run late,
Yeah, or not get the opportunity again. It's like it's or you
it's
fix
a very
it or
fragile thing.
yeah, exactly.
Very fragile thing. If you screw up twice, I don't know.
Yeah, you don't really want to get a name for ruining a show or being kind of late
You
or
don't,
whatever.
you don't want to be known for being difficult to work with.
Yeah.
You don't want to be known for being difficult to work with. So, you get, you know, a peek into the world of like professionalism, and mind you, like not every professional band is professional or works with a team that is professional. That also happens, inevitable. Um, and unfortunately, sometimes it ruins the perspective you had of a band that you look up to. But for the times that it doesn't, it gives you some interesting insight on like things that you could tweak or things that you can improve. And it also, you know, once you do it again in the future after making those tweaks, you know, it also validates the work that you do, and you know, allows you to feel a sense of accomplishment for, you know, you're adjusting to the, you know, situation. Once you take that experience and go and throw your own show and have it run that smoothly, you know, it's very satisfying, especially when you get to keep the money. Fun stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And from a performance point of view, for any of the listeners that haven't caught one of your shows, what could they expect?
A lot of me jumping around. I mean, we're not the most like performative, showy band when it comes to like costumes or like a look or a gimmick or something like that. At the moment, we're definitely more of like a band that you can go see live and like close your eyes and listen to the music, even in like the live environment. We definitely, when we started writing songs like Empath, we definitely wanted to give off uh, that kind of a vibe for that kind of a performance. But we are working on improving the visual side of the performance as well, not through like costumes and you know, like a look or like, you know, stage like gimmick or whatever, but we're something visually that's going to be nice and mesmerizing to watch, like as you're watching the band play the music, something that's going to like pair with the type of music we make.
I see. Hopefully now I'll at some stage get over there and catch one of your shows anyway and see what it's like.
So hopefully we get to get over there and play some shows on
Yeah,
that side of the
that's it.
pond
That
as well.
too.
I think I prefer that.
Yeah, so would I.
You stay right where you are. We're coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds
We're
good.
coming.
And we've heard about the gigs that have made you. I always say you need to hear about the good with the bad. So from your entire career now, is there a gig that you would say was the worst, and how did you deal with it?
Man, I just think we had our worst one like a few months ago.
Oh, really?
So I got assaulted during a sound check
Right.
back in December. I was just sound checking, and we were playing this bar in this like small town in Quebec, like about an hour and a half out from Montreal. And this old guy, just like, you know, a regular at this bar, comes up to me like maybe like a few inches from my face and is just shouting at me in like very angry French, talking about how I'm making too much noise before 6 p.m. and I'm breaking a bylaw, and yeah, but like literally like shouting and spitting in my face, and you know, I started smiling because it was gonna stop me from, you know, choking the guy. I turned to Nico, who's holding his guitar, and he looks like he's about to take it off and beat the guy with it. And then the owner had to come and like usher him out the door and, you know, kick him out of the venue. So the rest of the night after that was just absolute pandemonium. I think we played in a very poor neighborhood, very low income neighborhood that day, because everybody who was at that bar, I think, was high on something that they didn't get at that bar.
Right.
And it seemed like a bunch of people who had gotten, you know, like their welfare checks on the first of the month and were having, you know, kind of just like, you know, kind of just their night to go and splurge at their, you know, their watering hole, you know?
Yeah.
I think we interrupted that kind of event, and it kind of just created like a storm of like really fucked up people.
Jeez.
Even the owner of the bar, who lives above the bar, almost fell down his own stairs walking up at the end of the night.
Right.
And it was a big mess. It was a big mess.
It sounds
Yeah. Yeah, it was quite a wreck. We've had some other really interesting ones as well. We played in Quebec City in 2019, and there was we were playing like an after party or like a release show after party for a band that was playing next door, and like there was just fighting happening in the basement of the venue and out on the street in front of the venue, and there were cops everywhere pulling people over and handcuffing them and throwing them on the sidewalk. And I think we saw a guy like break out of the back seat of a cop car and try and make a run for it. And it was absolutely wild. And it took us until like 4 a.m. to finally get out of there. And so, like, once you're not playing, those events are like kind of fun to just like harmlessly watch off to the side. But like when you still haven't gone on stage yet and things are just absolutely on fire around you, it's a bit worrisome. Um, and we've also had not necessarily bad concerts, but bad drives home or bad drives away from certain concerts, getting caught in snowstorms and almost slipping into ditches and or mechanical issues and scary stuff like that too. Also tends to like kind of put a damper on the day, especially when you've already been driving for 9 hours and then you get hit with bad weather, and then all of a sudden everyone's sweating bullets, and yeah.
Yeah, sounds fun. All right. Nico's
things we do for music.
I mean, we've definitely had like you're talking about like us personally, like our band Fayne.
Well, something that
just
didn't
like
go
disaster
right with the gig.
I've seen I remember once, not to put down the show at all, but like I remember seeing the Contortionist once their backdrop fell right on the drummer. Like,
oh man,
they have like this huge wooden thing that's like behind the set. So as he's playing, he has the whole thing fall on him, and that was like it like everyone had to stop for like a second, and they just went to the next track after because he couldn't continue. So like little things like that, not as disastrous as Justin's. But what else? I don't know. Like we've played to like no one. Also, like we've driven out to some places, and you're just like, well, I guess it's like a glorified practice tonight. But
yeah, those are never fun.
No,
those are not fun to talk about.
But I mean, it happens. I've seen also like Justin said, some fights where you're just like, man, what is going on over here? Like usually, like for me, anyways, music brings me out to be enjoyed and like relax, have a good night, have a few beers. But like, I mean, I don't know, like when it gets too wild, I'm just like, man, I don't even understand what's happening. Like, it's just it's an unfortunate side of things sometimes that just gets out of hand. Like I've seen it happen more than once too, but
that's crazy, man. The smaller the town, like the farther away from like a major city you are, the crazier the potential the crowd has to be. Like the wilder the individual. Like
they don't get as many shows, right? So when they do get a show, they're like, man, let's
unhinged.
Go and... Yeah, exactly.
Unhinged. No, it's pretty crazy, and definitely like the culture of like the rural area that you're in plays an impact on like that showgoer's personality. Like there's a big, Montreal has a very diverse group of people that come from all over the world in all walks of life, and everyone has a lot of things that are different between them, but also a lot of things that they have in common. So when everyone gathers for the common purpose of that show in a big city, everyone tends to put their cultural differences aside and enjoy the show. But when you're in a rural area where everyone's the exact same, you tend to get this hive mind behavior where like, so if there's like one heckler in the audience that won't shut up, like chances are there's 10 more. No. Like it's just a phenomenon that I've seen. The farther away from big cities I go, the more the crowd behaves like a single entity and not just like so like one person's behavior is just intoxicating. So you can have like really dead crowds where just no one gives a crap, or you can have like crowds that you can't control, which is scary in the other direction. Like
Yeah.
sometimes it can be really nerve wracking. So
Jeez.
yeah.
Lovely, lovely. And when it comes to when it
Oh yeah, great.
oh, and when it comes to touring, I feel like listeners and fans have a certain perception in their mind, you know, they have this idea of the rock star life, let's say. But as an independent band behind the scenes, what's it really like?
Man, it's whatever the budget allows you to get. Like it really does boil down to that, you know. Like we did a couple of weekend warrior runs in November and December, and for one of those weekends, all the shows were far enough away from home that we decided to get an Airbnb. And because it was only like a couple of shows, we were like, you know, if we were to do 10 shows in a row, we wouldn't be getting an Airbnb every night at our level. It's just simply not feasible. It's too expensive. Like the reality is that you hope that you have friends in every city that you go to who has like, you know, at our level, a place that has like, you know, a couch or a floor to sleep on and somewhere to shower. At the very least, a driveway to park the van. We played out in Toronto one time and we went back to a buddy's place to crash. And the other band that was on tour with us, they just parked their van in his driveway and slept in their van. And they were like, fuck, it's like the safest we've slept like in such a long time.
Jeez.
Like, yeah, at the very early stages, it's pretty perilous. And a lot of people wonder why you put yourself through it. It can be, you know, when you pair that with people not showing up to some of the shows in the earlier days, it can be very discouraging, and it's why a lot of people stop. But it's like Nico said, like when we like are just like joking around together in a van for like 6 hours, that's like part of the experience that is enjoyable, you know. And yeah, it's not maybe paying us, you know, money, but like it's they're very fulfilling as experiences, you know. And nice to feel that like camaraderie doing that kind of thing, even if the thing bombs, you know. And if it allows you to be persistent, like eventually that persistence will pay off. You know, it will come back. It's just a matter of when and not if. At least that's my belief. So yeah, it can be very difficult at the beginning though. You kind of you definitely have puts hair on the chest, as I like to say. First time
I'd
around.
say so, yeah. And Nico, what's your take on it?
I think you just like if you're going to be touring and if like that's what you want to do, and like just make sure you're doing it with people like you like, because if you're not with people you like if you're just like at each other's throats all the time, like it's for sure it's game over. Like there's no way. Like you can't be. It's like you become a family, right? So if you guys are at each other's throats, it's like you have to just make sure that you get along with everyone in the band, and you because it's tough, man. It's not easy. You do sleep on floors. You do like get shows where there's nobody. You drive a long time for you know, an unexpected result at the end of it at the beginning. So yeah, you have to be made strong and not give up and not be discouraged by you know, one bad show or two bad shows or five bad shows. You know, you just have to keep saying fuck it, one day and like, you know, you keep playing shows and eventually you get like one of our record release shows where you sell out the place and you're just like, man, that was freaking incredible. Like that's why you do it.
Yeah. And you know, how do you guys measure success then?
Well, it's definitely really important to be able to confirm that we're playing well, and that what we're making, you know, is good, and that we're performing it well, and we're doing what we make justice. That's like I don't think success is just like a flat plane And it's just like, this is where success is. Like, there are
Steps.
stages to it. Yeah, there's steps to it. And the amount of steps is just based on what's enough for you. So for some people, success is just being able to play those songs really well with your friends in somebody's basement. And that can be enough. For somebody else, it could be doing that and being able to play in the community center down the street, once every month or 2 months, and have 20 of your friends show up. And then you all go to a bar together after. And that's like, a monthly outing. Some people it's that. And for some people it's a step further than that. And so on and so forth, For us, it's always nice to get responses from like new people who just like stumble upon our music and have something endearing to say. It's nice to hear that our music influenced somebody without it being forced upon them. It's also satisfying to promote something to somebody and have the marketing actually work and get that person into a band. But it's always really nice to get like sincere and endearing feedback from, strangers who are under no obligation to support you, or who, have not heard about you directly or indirectly through a friend or whatever, just kind of fell upon your stuff, who then take the time out of your day to show their appreciation for your art. For me, that's a big one. I remember like it was like 8 years ago or something like that. I had a guy message me in one of my old bands telling me that like my band's album got him through like suicidal episode.
Oh man.
And I was like, Jesus Christ, like that's probably the most powerful feedback I've ever gotten. Like, and I'm still grateful to that person to this day. And they're still here. So, that's great. So that kind of set the bar for me as like, I definitely define like those experiences as a level of success that I can be content with. I think it's really hard to keep doing music if you don't see success as a series of small victories. Because if you're just aiming for this one big thing and you don't regard all the small steps taken along the way as levels of success, then like success just starts to feel like something unattainable. And ultimately, when we feel that something's unattainable, we stop trying to go for it. So I think it's definitely important to kind of take your stuff in stages.
Definitely.
But in terms of like self-fulfillment for me is, those messages, those experiences, and those interactions.
Well, that's worth more than, the fame, the fortune, or any other kind of success you could wish for, when you know that you're touching someone like that with your music.
Exactly. Like all those times that you get someone come up to you after a show and just go like, man, that blew me away. I have no idea. Like, I came for the other band, but you guys like really blew me away tonight. And like, that would be a successful night, even if it's just one person where you're just like, man, we caught their attention, or like, we like that guy, he felt it in him, like I've felt that feeling watching bands where I'm just like, man, this is so yeah, success is not just monetary, it's or whatever, a play count or whatever it's not just one visual aspect of it. Like there's so many things that like I don't think all of us have the same measure of success either, you know what I mean? Like I think we all see it differently, but I think we've all learned to like be happy with the way we're doing things. And like again, like Justin said, every small little victory is a step like that you should be appreciative of, like it's hard to say, but yeah, I don't know. I see it the same way as Justin. Like just having conversations with people and seeing the way like our songs have affected them, good or bad or emotionally or whatever it is, getting them through a hard time. Those are always like successful victory. You're like, man, I like okay, we're doing something right. Like we're not just like playing notes in the wind, like we're like people actually feel something from what we're doing. We're getting them emotional. Yeah, we're getting
It's
an
nice when
emotional
nice when
reaction.
it resonates.
Yeah.
Definitely nice when it resonates. That's what you wanted to do, you know, like the music that I love the most, like affected me, you know? So I think definitely one of those steps of success, like on that ladder, should be making sure that your music is affecting people in the way that you want it to, you know? Hopefully for good. Hopefully your
Definitely.
music's not inciting violence.
Yeah. And as a follow-up question then, in 30 or 40 years' time, you know, you need the Zimmer frame on stage, you're playing gigs in the nursing homes, you're at the end of your career. You look back, what needs to have happened for you to feel happy and fulfilled?
I mean, if I could play a concert in the metaverse, that would be awesome.
Really?
What needs to happen to be fulfilled? Oh man. Like if you asked me this question 10 years ago, I would have told you like I want to be, you know, playing 200 shows a year and I want to be on the cover of, you know, Revolver or freaking Kerrang or Alternative Press or, you know, or just, you know, just to be part of that circuit of bands that I bought ticket after ticket to go see,
Hmm.
you know? And now at my at this point, like uh, I have no problem being content with like carving out a you know carving out a path where this music can sustain itself and also reach like even just like a niche group of people who will keep coming back and who will keep appreciating the craft and not only watching us grow as performers but grow with us as listeners as well, you know, which that's like the ultimate tug of war between fans and musicians, right? Is like when a band finally decides to flip the script and do something different. You have this cult following who's like, "Oh, I liked you on your first record," and it's like, you know, it's trying to get those fans to like evolve with you um, would be something really cool to accomplish. To kind of just, you know, create this. It would be nice to create like a community of people who grow with you, you know, even if it's, you know, even if you're doing like a few shows a year, you know, you sell out the place. And I'm not saying like a 1,000 person room, even if it's like a 400 person room, you know, you've got like your niche fan base who continuously support throughout the years and continue to like what you do, even if you change or, you know, switch things up a little bit, which sounds very unattainable, but I don't think it is. I think it's possible.
It'd be hard, but it's definitely achievable.
Yeah. A lot of people want that for like, you know, a fan base of thousands, which I think is a little ludicrous. I think it makes much more sense to hone in and create
Find your
a
people.
find your people. Yeah. I just want to find my people.
Yeah, yeah. And Nico, what about you? What needs to happen for you?
Um, honestly, I don't know. Like, I think, man, I'm like happy with what we've done. Not that I want to stop or think that we've achieved like our peak or whatever. You know what I mean? But like, I don't think we need something. Uh, like, I'm gonna look back on this in 30, 40 years and still be stoked either way with whatever happens from like today, even if it ends today. You know what I mean? Like that. That's the way I see it. So I don't think I need like I want to be stoked to show my grandchildren like the vinyl that we pressed this year and like be like, look at what grandpa used to do and like listen to this and I'm like, what the fuck is this? You know, like I already think like like I already think we've we've done something pretty cool and like I don't know. I maybe it's like I do have more ambitions and I do want to do greater things and like, you know, but I'm the way I see it personally is like no matter what, in 40 years, I'm still going to be like stoked about this. You know what I mean? Like I don't need like yeah, if we could play in front of like a huge venue with 5,000 people, that would be awesome. You know, but like I don't necessarily need that. You know what I mean? Like it would be incredible. Like I would do it and I would do it over and over and over again. But like I mean, and it would be great to look back upon. But I'm stoked with what we've done, and like I have great memories that will last me forever. And I don't know. I'm just like that. Like I'm trying to think of something, but like the way I see it is just like I'm proud of what we've done, and like I like I'll always look back on these days or like the memories I've built with these guys and be stoked about it. So I don't think I need an event or something to happen, or personally. Uh,
Just to be clear, I'm also very satisfied with where we've come. I'm not discontent at all. Making me sound like an ungrateful little shit.
No, at all. That's not what I meant at all. No, but but I don't also want to sound like I'm satisfied. Like I don't think you're ever satisfied either, right? So yeah, you have to be ambitious as well and like want more and strive for more. But I'll always be stoked with what we've done, and
Right. And before we dive into the last couple of questions, what's your future plans? What's locked in place for you?
Locked in place right now. I think we've pretty much decided to sit down and write the next body of work. Start working on the next batch of songs, which have already been underway for a little while now. But now that we've gotten the holidays out of the way, and we had a marketing campaign that we were doing with a PR company over the course of the summer and into the fall that we had just finished up right before Christmas. So once we finished that, and then we let the holidays play out, and we kind of got back together in the new year to kind of talk about what the next steps were, especially after the batch of shows that we had just done too. We decided that we're going to sit down and work on some new music, and I think we're all craving some new tunes right now. So that's what's on the chopping block right now, and no extensive touring is really in place yet. We're definitely like using the strategy where we're going to create a body of work, and before we release it, we're going to shop around and see, what kind of collaborations and connections are out there, whether it be booking agents, management, labels, stuff like that, and kind of just play that field a little bit first, see if there's any bites, and if not, okay, time for plan B, and go through with an independent release, and then see the shows we could do with that, and it's rinse and repeat. It's but right now we're writing. We're going to be writing.
Good to hear. I know it's very early days, but is there an expected date that fans could look forward to hear something?
I can't even say. I can't even. No, it's not that I'm keeping like a secret or anything. It's just like I literally don't know. It's very early, like you said. We would definitely like to have something out within the next year. I don't think we're going to make people wait more than a year for at least a new song. I think with this upcoming body of work, we're definitely going to try and apply ourselves more than we've ever had into like honing the craft and perfecting the music, and really trying to create something that's different and that's exciting, but that also still sounds like us. I think we definitely started to find our direction when we wrote Empath and Hubris. We definitely seemed to find like the style of. We definitely found something that I think we're very comfortable playing, and that we understand people really like when we do it. So we want to see how much we can elaborate on, the sounds and the ideas that we used in those songs, and also try and come up with something that evolves from that. And we're getting there slowly but surely.
Good. Right, we'll jump into the last couple of questions. Everybody gets these, I'm afraid, so you can't get off the podcast till you answer. If you could see any performer from history in concert for one night only, who would it be?
So I guess it's like somebody who I can't see now. That like, man, honestly, like, just like, not because like they're a huge influence on me or whatever, at all, but like just to see like the folly of like people in the '60s going like to like a Beatles concert, like what the fuck was happening? Like, I think like just seeing something like, or like Woodstock, like the first Woodstock, like something like that, with like all these legends, like just being at something like that I would say is probably, because I've seen like, I don't know, a lot of freaking bands from nowadays, so if I would have to go back, I would say like, yeah, something like Woodstock from the '60s, just to see like what it was like, and like not necessarily a performer, but like more that whole experience of being there and seeing like how it was back then. I guess like every era has their festival, or their like what we were talking about like 20 years ago. We had our little scene, or like the little cliques. So like it would just be interesting to see and go back into that time and see like what was happening at that concert, and like at that festival, and just, I don't know. I think that's something that pops up to me, where it would be like, man, that would have been crazy to be there.
Yeah, would have
At
been
least
epic.
in that time, like that's what, like that's all. There was no metal shows or anything, like that's what it was. So like that must have been something.
I definitely would want to see the Pink Floyd lineup when Dark Side of the Moon came out.
Yeah,
good choice.
It's a very
Did they play Woodstock?
Did they play Woodstock? I don't know.
Yeah, I know.
Maybe.
No,
I'm a big Floyd fan. I've seen like Roger Waters and like Australian Pink Floyd, and most recently I saw Nick Mason, their drummer, with like, he has a set of hired musicians and they play all the Pink Floyd stuff that's pre Dark Side of the Moon. So like Sid Barrett levels, Sid Barrett era albums, like before he went schizophrenic, and before he left the band. And I guess being able to see like that the lineup that was from there in that turning point when they put out Dark Side of the Moon would be pretty crazy.
Yeah,
that would be pretty crazy.
Yeah,
especially if you could find the stuff that they had back then, man. Jeez.
Yeah. And the next one. So, if you could spend 24 hours locked in a room with any musician or performer from history, who would it be?
Oh man. Oh, this one's tough. 24 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Nico, do you have anything?
Man, I don't know. Because like there's so many, there's so many levels of things. Like, do you want to be with like a musician where you're going to learn from them, or do you want to hear like someone's stories? Like there's so many different, like it's hard to pick one, because like, man, I would love to hear like, like someone like Ozzy's touring stories, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I would not want to learn to sing from him, you know what I mean? Like, so it depends, man. I don't know. That's a good one. I think I would go more down the storyline though.
I think I'd want to spend 24 hours with Prince.
He's
a very common one now.
Is he?
Often,
Is he?
Yeah, I often hear Prince.
Yeah, Prince, because he was a hell of a personality, and he was a hell of a performer, and he was a hell of a musician. Like, this guy conceived just an amazing performance and amazing music, and just like, he was the whole package. And just it takes a special kind of person to be the whole package like that. A lot of people are kind of just more on one side or the other. Like, the best composers aren't always the best performers, and vice versa. they use very two different parts of the brain in order to like engage you, you know, with whatever it is that you're doing. But Prince had both, you know, very performative, just a lot of, he had a lot of, I don't even know how to say it, sass. He was a very sassy man.
I feel like it would
Right?
get awkward after a while though. Like if I had to spend like 20, like now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like listening to what Justin's saying. Like I might like for 24 hours. Like,
can I bring a guitar and a computer? Like,
yeah, see,
Yeah.
you know, like, or is it just like me, him, and like a book? You know, like
That'd be a
like
long
Dave
24 hours.
Grohl would be sick to be with for 24 hours. You
Mm.
know, because like he would tell you some sick stories and he would play like every instrument in the world in front of
Yeah.
you, and like you could jam whatever you want with him. So I think like for a 24-hour span, I don't know. I know he's still around, so you could have this opportunity.
I have another interesting one. Dave Grohl, that's a great one.
That's what I said. Yeah, Dave Grohl would be one of them for sure.
I was just thinking Frank Zappa.
Right, yeah, that's another one.
Frank Zappa or Mike Patton.
Mike Patton is that would see, but he's another one. He's a little eccentric. After for 24 hours, he would start losing.
Les Claypool, like these really eccentric, weird guys. Put them all in a room together and see what happens. That's what I'm voting for.
That'd be one hell of a party.
I think it would just be a matter of who's going to eat the other person first. Les Claypool or see what they come up with. Dave Grohl's a sick answer, man. I don't know. Can't believe I didn't think of that.
I think like he would be definitely one that would love to rack his brain, and then like you could jam with him, and like you would just play everything. You know what I mean? Like whatever.
Yeah.
So I don't think you would get bored in 24 hours being with him. To be honest,
no. But like he seems to be.
Coffee.
Yeah. He seems to be the type of person that there's no ego with him. So you know,
no, exactly.
He just seems down to earth.
Yeah, he would tell you stories as if like you've known him forever. Like at least that's the way he seems. He seems like a very down to earth guy. So I mean, he was definitely one person I would love to rack his brain, and like 24 hours with him would be very interesting for sure.
Definitely. Right, the final one. Is there a song that would appear on the soundtrack to your life?
Oh man.
It's all video game music, if I'm being honest. So.
The final, like the winning victory song on the Final Fantasy VII.
Your theme song? What's your theme song type question? Is that what we're going for?
Yeah.
Okay.
Man,
it's funny because the song I would pick is literally your Instagram handle, Nico.
Me, White Walls.
Yeah, I picked White Walls. Yeah, just the ending.
I mean that's a huge track for me too. Obviously, because it's my Instagram handle, but oh man,
tough one. There's some really
like there's so many songs that have marked me.
Like we're a breed of person that musicians are breeds of people that know so much music. So just like the oxymoron to ask someone who listens to so much to just scope it to one thing.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a very difficult one. I see what you're doing. Man.
But I don't know if I had to pick. It's not like a song that I would listen to forever. Like the only song that I would, you know what I mean? Like if I had to pick like one, like an anthem type song or whatever, like Only in Dreams from Weezer was a huge song for me when I was a kid. Like when I first saw that live, like during the build up, like I was just like, and it's nothing crazy, but like at the time I was like 12 years old and I was like, man, this is so sick. Like, but I don't know, like I wouldn't even say it. Like it's so hard because there's so many different times in your life where you've had like this anthem, this summer song. Like I could go back to like some songs that I just think of like, oh yeah, that's the song from like that I didn't stop listening to that summer or whatever. Like I have albums that like Last Resort from Papa Roach always reminds me of high school and like getting ready for exams. Like that for me, like I would pump myself up with Last Resort from Papa Roach
Are
every
you
time.
serious?
I swear to God, like I would be like, "Fuck, I'm doing an exam. I need to get ready. I'm listening to Last Resort from Papa Roach." Like that was like my so like I don't know it and like now I mean I haven't listened to the album in years, but like I don't know. It's hard to say. Like White
I
Walls was huge
cannot
for me back in the day too.
imagine you pumping yourself up to
Oh,
Last
yeah,
Resort.
yeah.
I can't even
Like
picture
a
it.
14, 15-year-old.
Doesn't register in my head at all. It just doesn't fit.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, it's like I don't know. It's like the White Walls is not a good one. Then it's like because my life.
There's so many.
My life
But like
is not as
you could
chaotic
pick
as that song.
No, and you could pick even a Pink Floyd song. You know what I mean? Like there's so many. I don't know, man.
Right.
But like it doesn't end. That's the thing. To pick one song is just impossible. Like, man, it's a really tough question. But I like.
Oh man, I think I'd have an Incubus song.
That's what I was thinking. Like Incubus was another one for me. Like growing up, that like marked me.
Yeah,
but like
I put on.
I don't know if I could say it like there's an anthem to my life. I don't know, man. That's because it's forever changing.
It's Break Stuff by Limp Bizkit. Fred Durst is my Morgan Freeman narrator of my life.
Oh.
Every time I do something right, I just hear, yeah.
I don't know, like a huge album for me is Language from Contortionist for sure. Like I don't know, I don't even know if I could pick a song from it, but like because the whole album is just great front to back. But like that would be one album that I would use as like an anthem wise because I listen to it so damn much.
I have a counter question.
Yeah.
I have a counter question. What's the craziest answer? What's the craziest answer to this question anyone's ever given you?
One person said the wheels on the bus.
The wheels on the bus?
Yeah.
That's sick.
As a serious answer, I don't know. I don't know actually. There's been a couple that have got really depressing. Then there's a few that have picked. The Beatles come up a lot. I've had Pink Floyd, Jimi Hendrix has been mentioned. Alan Parsons, one of his depressing songs. But generally people try to focus on, say, if it was their funeral, what song would people play to remind them? That's what I was thinking.
That's why I said Only in Dreams before, because I was thinking like, if it was my funeral, like I would probably play a song like that, where it's just like, calm but epic song or whatever.
Yeah.
But man, it's a tough question because there's like music is just so damn good. Like I just can't pick. Like whenever like someone asks, like if you had to spend whatever the rest of your days on an island and you could only bring one album, like man, I would never be able to pick that one album. Can I make a mixtape? Like. Man.
The tough one. That's crazy because like I love so many different styles of music as well. Like I like rap music a lot as well. I like classical music. I like jazz music. Like something that kind of sums up like the pace of my life outside being in a metal band is more like at a hip hoppy pace than like a heavier song. You know what I mean? So like I have to think like outside of the metal community or the metalhead aspect of my life because it doesn't play as big of a part as it used to anymore. It was like my whole identity when I was like 22 years old, But now being in the 30s things seem to have evolved, as they do. I'm a big Mac Miller fan. I think I would definitely have, one of his more melancholy tracks that talk about how life just goes in waves and, goes in circles and, definitely something that has more of like more talks about that kind of thing, I guess. That would be my answer.
Oh, good one. Right, guys, it's been an absolute blast now, and it's been a long one. I've enjoyed getting an insight into your music now. I know the listeners are going to love it.
Thank you,
Brian.
man. Thank you so much for having us. It's been a while since we've done one of these, so it was nice to talk with new people again.
Hello, Twisted Humans. Do you find yourself wanting to know more about the latest murder, conspiracy, cult, or haunting? Then this is the podcast for you. In 1952, there was a record high of UFOs reported, 1,500 sightings. There has been evidence of human sacrifice, devil worship, and it is haunted by more spirits than can be counted. A family of 2 adults and 2 kids reportedly saw a giant flying thing with glowing red eyes.
And meanwhile, the family's nanny that helped Veronica to care for her and Lucian's children was found bludgeoned to death in the basement of their family home.
I'm Alicia.
And I'm Sierra, and this is Twisted and Uncorked.
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. And if you're interested in signing up to Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So, until next time, keep rocking.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here.